G'day folks, welcome to this final playthrough of the China incident scenario. This just covers the autumn season, and I already ran through the Japanese turn, so we start with the Allied turn, and the first thing they do is play their quarantine address card. This is of little consequence. They select one neutral or friendly Chinese country and apply influence to it, so basically place an Allied influence marker in Sichuan. I don't fully understand what this does yet. I haven't got to that section of the rules really, but I understand this is basically a prerequisite to bringing this country over to our side. We then get into the Western powers movement, and what I'm doing here is trying to strengthen that city. So I'm checking. I've been reading through the rules, checking the legality of this. I've advanced the Hopei forces further into their country to create space for these other Chinese forces to move in behind them. I couldn't read anything that I know these two forces can't stack together. Their expeditionary forces don't come out until the scenario ends, so that's not going to happen. I think these extra Kiangsu forces can then move up into Hopei territory. I couldn't find anything that says that the forces of one Chinese minor country can't move into the territory of another Chinese country. They can't stack together, I get that. But I think they can move into the city. And the reason I want to do this is because they have more forces, basically, so they can provide a stronger defense in that final Hopei city. They're still have no offensive capabilities. They're all on 0. So they're just defending here, but this increases their defense to 2 instead of just the 1. And that's about it. That's all the Western powers are doing. So in the final Japanese turn of, I think it's September, October perhaps, in autumn, they launch several attacks. They certainly attack that Hopei one-step unit out in the open, and the Kwantung headquarters out on the right can lend their support to this, so this is a successful attack. In fact, it's an exchange result, so the Japanese do lose one of their one-steps up in the top left. Unfortunately for the Japanese, their attack on those Kiangsu forces doesn't go well. It's an attacker defeated result, and so they lose another step as well. They're down to 2 one-step infantry down the south of Hopei. As it was the last Japanese turn, I mean, the Allies run through their turn, they get some more replacements, and now Kiangsu has quite a sizable force in the area. And yeah, have started to build up some offensive capability at last. But this is, of course, the final turn of the scenario. So it ends with the Japanese unable to capture all those cities in Hopei. But the Japanese still control Shanghai down in the bottom right, and this is one of their victory conditions. So if they control Shanghai but haven't captured Hopei, the scenario ends in a draw. Kiangsu didn't put any pressure on Shanghai at all. They don't have many forces. They don't have much offensive capability. They'd be looking at less than, I think, 1-to-1 odds to attack Shanghai with those column shifts from the city. Yeah, and again, they move their forces north to help Hopei. So they managed to eke out a draw with the Japanese, but yeah, didn't capture Shanghai. So that's the end of this second scenario. That is the China incident, a draw. So we saw the effects of, as I said, weather. Supply was pretty straightforward. We certainly had that naval transport, which is another element that we've added to our understanding. Grasping the importance of this diplomatic phase and these card plays and conditional events and so forth, reading through a lot of the rules for these and understanding how they all work. Now I'm going to move on to scenario A3, Tora, Tora, Tora. This is a much larger scenario, walking through the first 2 seasons of total war and some big attacks on the Western Allies and some more naval movement and more naval and air support. So stay tuned, and I'll be running through that soon.